Hey guys, welcome to Through Flood and Flame. We are on the chapter about Isaac Martin, which is on page 92, but it doesn't have a page number, so look for page 93 and then look over on page 92, okay? We are talking about Isaac Martin and English merchants' sufferings in Spain. It says, at the quay at Malaga, in Spanish it would be Malaga, which is a municipio de España, I found out. On the quay at Malaga, about 300 years ago, a Spanish official was examining the luggage which an Englishman had brought ashore. Luggage is your maletas, your equipaje. It was not a cursory examination, not a mere raising of trunk lids and a hasty glance under the top row of clothing, but a thorough scrutiny of every article which the trunks contained. To this minute examination, the luggage of all persons entering Spain was subjected in order to prevent Protestant literature being brought into the country. So they said this wasn't like just routine. It was just like, oh, okay, here's your maleta, your suitcase. Yep, I checked it. You're good to go. No, they were checking it thoroughly, okay? They wanted to know if you had any kind of literature from the Protestants. They were trying to control it, right? Isaac Martin waited patiently while his luggage was being examined, interesting his wife and 4 children by interpreting to them the remarks of the official and the cries of the street vendors. Suddenly, the Spaniard uttered a grunt of satisfaction. He had found some books among the luggage. One was a Bible, and the others were the religious books of devotion. So he was happy he found all this stuff, right? Quickly and triumphantly, the Spaniard pulled out the books and looked suspiciously at the Englishman, told him that he would detain them for examination by the priests. So he was proud of himself. Martin offered no objection, as the books were of a non-controversial nature, and he did not believe that they would give offense to Roman Catholics. It means that he wasn't scared because it wasn't supposed to be offensive topics that he had the books on, that even the Roman Catholics would be in agreement, basically, about these topics. Evidently, though, he was mistaken. That was an error of thought because they were offended. For they were never returned to him and were probably destroyed by the Inquisition. When Martin had been 2 months in Malaga, he discovered that it was being said in the town that he was a Jew. This was a very serious matter, for Jews found in Spain were burnt at the stake unless they abjured, remember what that word means, their faith and became Roman Catholics, that they recant it, right? That they take it back. Moreover, the Inquisition had burnt as Jews foreigners whom they knew to be Protestants, believing that as European nations did not protest against the killing of Jews, diplomatic difficulties would be avoided. So what that means is that anybody that they wanted to burn, anybody that they wanted to kill, just call them a Jew and you would be justified. No European countries would get mad at you. Okay, so he was not a Jew. But that's what they were going to use, supposedly. That was the rumor, in order to kill him. Martin, having satisfied his consul that he was not a Jew, felt secure against arrest, but he soon found that he was not to escape persecution. So he did convince them that he wasn't a Jew, but it didn't mean that he wasn't going to be in trouble. Some of the townspeople annoyed him for being a heretic. Others molested him on the pretense of his being a Jew. Martin worked up a good business in Malaga, but the annoyance which he and his family suffered became so unbearable that at the end of 4 years he decided to sell it and return to England. So he did get out of legal trouble, but his reputation was there now, and nobody would let him hear the last of it, basically. One night, shortly after it became known that he intended to leave the country, 15 priests, accompanied by several officials, came to his house and arrested him. You cannot satisfy these people. That we have learned in this much of the book, right? He protested against his arrest and asked for the British consul to be fetched. This request was refused, the priest declaring that the consul had nothing to do with the matter. Then he was searched. "Where are your beads?" he was asked, and replied that he was an English Protestant and did not use them. The beads were the rosary beads, so they were part of the ritos of the Catholic Church, which was like a cadena with like little, I don't know what you call them in Spanish, little beads like they put in hair and stuff like that, but it's on a cadena. I know that you guys have seen the rosary beads for Catholics, so that's what they were talking about. His watch, money, and everything of value that he had about him was then taken away, and having been robbed, he was removed to the bishop's prison and put in a dungeon with a pair of iron fetters on his legs. Some of the priests who remained at his house turned his wife and children into the street to live as best they could. Okay, took everything and put his wife and children on the street, homeless. When at last, some days later, they gained admission to the house, they found that everything had been removed. The house was empty and the poor woman had no money with which to buy new furniture. After 4 days' imprisonment, Martin was taken before the governor of the prison, and as soon as he was allowed to speak, he asked the reason of his arrest. This, he was told, he would hear when he was taken before the Inquisition at Granada. He then asked to be allowed to see his wife and children before leaving Malaga, but permission was refused. The following morning, the 72 miles journey to Granada was begun. Martin, heavily fettered, that means having the things around his feet so he cannot escape, riding on a mule. As he passed through the streets of Malaga, the people jeered at him, some calling him a heretic, others a Jew, but all uniting and telling him with fiendish glee that he was being taken to Granada to be burned. At length, Martin and his custodians got clear of the town, but they had not proceeded far when the mule, irritated by Martin's fetters, threw him heavily. So the mule kicked him off, man, and he landed probably on his back, because it says right here, badly hurt on the back. Martin was unable to rise without assistance, and although he was suffering great pain, his custodians mounted him on the mule and continued the journey. Fortunately for Martin, an English merchant who resided at Vélez, Malaga, where they passed the night, did all that he possibly could to mitigate the prisoner's sufferings. So somebody did help him, try to ease the pain. He brought a doctor to dress his back and promised to look after his wife and children. He did not, however, attempt to conceal from Martin that he was in a perilous position, and expressed his belief that the Inquisition intended to pretend he was a Jew and threaten him with death unless he became a Roman Catholic. Okay, so this man became a good friend. He helped him with his back, he helped him with his wounds, he's going to help his wife and children, but he talked to him seriously. This is the situation. They're going to try you as a Jew and make you convert to Catholicism. England, as I have said, did not in those days protect its Jewish subjects. So they would protect you as a Protestant, but the Catholics always found a way. So they tried him as a Jew. And many a Protestant who had no Jewish blood in his veins was declared by the Inquisition to be a Jew and burnt at the stake. On the following morning, Martin was still in great pain, but his custodians mounted him on the mule, and they resumed their journey. Before they departed, the merchant managed to have a short talk with Martin, during which he secretly gave him some money, in case he might have an opportunity to bribe his custodians to allow him to escape. Okay? Again, something he did to help him out. Gave him money to give to the people that were delivering him to maybe help him escape. Moreover, he promised to urge the consul at Malaga to write to the British ambassador at Madrid and secure his release. He also assured Martin that he would warn his wife and children not to recant. This guy was cool. 2 days after quitting Vélez, Malaga, Martin arrived at Granada and was shut up until night at an inn. For the Inquisition always, when possible, had its victims brought into its prisons after dark. On entering the prison, Martin was at once searched, and the money which the merchant had given him was confiscated. He was also warned that if he had any money concealed in his clothes, he must confess, as if any were discovered after this warning, he would receive 200 lashes. Okay, so they knew that he might want to bribe them, so they took the possibility away. The examination of his clothes ended, Martin was removed to a dungeon and told that he must be perfectly quiet. If he spoke, sang, or whistled, he would be severely punished. He might walk about his cell if he trod very softly, so he could walk if he didn't make any noise. Having given these warnings, the jailer extinguished the light and departed. Martin heard the heavy bolts shot on the outer side of the door, and then all was silent. All through the night, Martin lay in his dark dungeon, shivering with cold and suffering excruciating pain. Morning came, but only a glimmer of light penetrated the dungeon, so it still remained very dark. The faint light came through a small opening close to the ceiling. When the jailer entered, Martin told him of the pain in his back, and on the following morning a doctor came to examine him. Having bled the prisoner, he gave him some oil to rub on his back and then departed. But Martin found that he was so stiff and bruised that he could not possibly rub himself, and consequently the oil was not used. Okay, so he gave him oil, but wasn't going to help. For 3 days, Martin lay in pain on his bed, but as soon as he was able to walk, he was taken before the Inquisition. The chief inquisitor, a man of about 60 years of age, was seated in an armchair between two large crucifixes. On his left sat the secretary. Between the chief inquisitor and the stool on which Martin was told to sit was a table, on which was placed, facing the prisoner, a third crucifix. Martin's examination began in the usual way. That is, he was closely questioned concerning his past life and made to give full particulars regarding every member of his family. He admitted that he was Protestant, and after being questioned for an hour and a half, he was ordered back to his dungeon. So normal procedure that we've seen in other chapters. A week later, he was again taken before the Inquisition, and after answering many questions of a trivial nature, he was told that it was said he had blasphemed against the Roman Catholic faith. This Martin denied, declaring that all he had done was to defend the Protestant religion because when it was slandered in his presence. But what is the reason of your having so many enemies at Malaga? The chief inquisitor asked. And Martin replied that it was partly due to his being an English Protestant, and partly because many citizens were envious of his success in business. Nothing more of importance occurred at this audience, nor at the next three more times he was taken before the Inquisition. Remember, they're trying to break him. They're trying to get him to say, that's it, I'll go home. I'll be Catholic. I just want to get out of here. But at the 6th, the charges on which he was arrested were made known to him. First, he was charged with having abused a schoolmaster for teaching his children the Roman Catholic religion, and for declaring that he had simply sent his children to him to learn to read and write, and that he would teach them at home his own religion. Martin admitted that he had said this to the schoolmaster, but maintained that in accordance with the Articles of Peace between England and Spain, he was at liberty to educate his children in his own faith. The chief inquisitor next accused Martin of omitting to raise his hat when holy images were being carried through the streets, and of neglecting to kneel down while the host was passing. Martin declared that it was against his conscience as a Protestant to pay homage to the images or the host, and said that the Article of Peace did not compel him to do so. From the numerous other questions which the chief inquisitor asked, Martin discovered that he had been closely watched during the whole of the time that he had lived in Malaga. So at that time where they acted like he was okay now, because he wasn't Jewish, it was only to let him go to watch him the whole time and see everything that he did that was Protestant. And that certain Irish Roman Catholics had been very active in obtaining evidence against him. This was not surprising, for many English Protestants living on the continent were brought before the Inquisition on charges made by Irish Roman Catholics. Passing from the matter of idols and the host, the chief inquisitor accused Martin of being a Jew. This Martin denied, but he asked why, if he were not a Jew, his name was Isaac, and why was one of his boys called Abraham. Martin naturally answered that many people who were not Jews had biblical names. After a few more questions, the secretary read aloud the accusation on which Martin was arrested. To us, it seems as it is grossly unjust to try a man before telling him the nature of the accusation against him. But the Inquisition adopted this course for very good or rather bad reasons. Many prisoners, while being examined by the inquisitors, divulged unintentionally particulars concerning themselves and the religion with which their judges were unacquainted. This information was incorporated in the accusation. Thus, it was not until Martin appeared for the 6th time before the Inquisition that the charge against him was read. In his case, nothing was added. And we'll learn the accusation tomorrow when we find out what else happens to Isaac Martin. Today, all you need to do is write the 5 most important things that happened in this part of today's story that will help you give your summary tomorrow in your audio. Thank you. No, not tomorrow. Thursday. Okay, bye.